It's Minecraft Movie Day, and 1 month ago that was officially true. On March the 4th of 2022, after 8 years of development, they finally released the Minecraft movie, except actually what they did is they delayed it one more time. They fired the director and said they were starting again from scratch, and we heard nothing about the movie until just this week, where the widely reported news that the Minecraft movie will reportedly star Jason Momoa has resurfaced again. If you're like me and you don't know your actors, then I looked into Jason Momoa. Apparently he's Aquaman. He starred in June, and the way that I know him is he was Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones, and so Khal Drogo is going to be playing in the Minecraft movie. I can only guess it's Steve if he's the only big actor they've announced so far, because Warner Bros. Have had the rights since 2014, and the only other actor we've heard about was in 2016. They were in talks with Steve Carell for the Minecraft movie. That presumably went nowhere, and we also know the director of the movie is going to be Jared Hess, which I have no idea who he is also. However, I do know he's the 4th director they've attached to this movie. They had Peter Soleil at first, then they had Rob McElhenney from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, then they had the director from Free Guy, and now this is the 4th director. You know, can you imagine a more troubled project than this? And it's tragic too, because we're just seeing a resurgence of video game movies, with aforementioned Free Guy being a really big one, the Sonic movies doing pretty well. There's all these big video game movies, and the biggest video game of all time can't get made into anything. In fact, they have only a couple more years that they have access to the license. They need to have something in production by next year for them to keep the Minecraft movie rights, and it would be really tragic if that went nowhere on the one hand, but on the other hand, I feel as though Minecraft has grown so much in the last 10 years, maybe they could do something better by not having a third party having control of it. Who knows for sure? I just know that this is a crazy thing to follow, that we keep thinking the Minecraft movie is a couple of years away, but it's been a couple of years away now for 8 years and counting, and so I'm not too optimistic about where this is going, but I have to admit I'm really enjoying following it anyway. And so with that said, let's move into the next question, because this is Q&A Saturday, the weekly series that isn't always on a Sunday. And the next question is from M2 Lansky. Why people are excited about the loot in the ancient city, I cannot understand. There is a late game useless recovery compass and a useless disc which people are distracted about. Why people do it with yourself? And if we ignore the last comment in that sentence, which didn't make sense from a grammatical perspective, but also had 2 words misspelt in pretty dire ways, I think there's a valid point here. Why would you be excited about going to the deep dark in the ancient city if all you're gonna find is a music disc, which doesn't sound very good? It's got lore behind it and everything, but it's just a kind of rough sounding disc. And then also the recovery compass, which is really useful for when you're gonna be dying a lot, but if you can make it to the ancient city and back, you probably have started to avoid death by then. I think that first of all, you're missing out on the swift sneak enchantment. There aren't many uses for this, but it's a cool way to get a perfected piece of gear, so you need to go there if you want to get that, you know, perfect end game equipment. But also, the useless recovery compass isn't useless. I think if you die in, say, the Nether or the End, it's going to be useful to have one of these to point you to where you're at, if you don't have coordinates, like on Bedrock especially, I'd say. But finally, also, even though you can be really late game in Minecraft, you still have this chance of dying all the time. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that even though your odds of dying go lower, your risk of dying, the number of things you'll lose, gets much, much higher. You could lose all your netherite armor due to despawning, and so taking a recovery compass and putting it in your base is one of the best security measures you can have, and so it might be worth coming to this place just for it. I think the bigger reason to come here is to pick up some sculk catalysts, pick up some sculk sensors, and honestly, just for the experience, it's a very fascinating place. It's a new biome underground that you're probably going to find by accident, and I think it's got enough loot to probably just about justify it. Maybe I'm wrong there, but speaking of things I'm wrong about, Hack Guy says, of course the 2 game modes kept were 6 and 9 hilarious, and although there is a funny thing about game mode 6 and game mode 9, I'd like to quickly just make a correction, because although in that video I believe that was just game mode 9, apparently that is the default undefined game mode behavior. This weird half survival, half creative is what happens when you have a game mode that isn't defined within the game, so it's not just game mode 9, it's game mode 7 or 8, or even if you type in, like I did here, game mode 1062 and load up Minecraft, as you can see, it is still this weird half survival, half creative, almost host privileges style thing. It's obviously weird that this is a thing that exists in the first place, but the fact that this is the default game mode if you don't assign one in the game code is really, really interesting to me. Like, why does this exist to begin with? I don't really know, but I do know it's interesting, and I want to make sure I make this correction right here, that yeah, it's game mode everything. Any game mode that isn't defined looks like this, and it's very strange, but welcome to the strange world we live in. Speaking of the strange world we live in, there's got to be something to why you have to build the disc. Maybe the disc has something to do with the portal. And this does sound pretty compelling, but we have had a direct explanation from King B-Dogs himself himself regarding what the insight is on Music Disc 5. So he says the reason that Music Disc 5 is split into fragments, as in why have a one-off item that only has a one crafting table recipe, and he says the reason is because the city itself encourages stealth gameplay. If we only had the disc itself, unfragmented, like other discs are, in chests, you'd be looking through half the chests or more in the city before you'd find it, and that's if you even know that it exists beforehand. By it being in fragments, the first time you get it, you see a new crafting recipe, which gives you a mini goal / quest to find them all. Giving players goals in the city is important in a similar fashion to the Echo Shards. Once you get one, you know there's a new thing you can craft, and you're tasked with finding the rest. A lot of game design is about framing the psychology of player planning. Once you give them a set of tools and rules to move in those constraints, their ability to plan out their intrinsic goals and motivations is what makes Minecraft work. This is especially important in a city in game where its horrors may often make the player leave. And yeah, I think that explanation right there is really a good one of just the official reason as to why it's in shards is to make sure you have some reason to keep looting these chests after you know that there's a big horror that you've got to avoid. And so the idea is the recovery compass requires 8 of those shards, and the music disc requires 9 of its individual pieces, so that you keep going from chest to chest to chest. Whereas if you compare this to other structures like the End City, you get an elytra once and then you're out there. You can fly away, you don't really need a second one, or even the other great chest loot, a super enchanted chest plate. You could look for another super enchanted chest plate, but do you really need it? Probably not, and this is really cool game design in my opinion. However, it doesn't, it might sound like that's saying that, well, you're wrong about it being something to do with the portal. I don't think that makes it impossible, because it is still the only music disc which is crafted in fragments. They didn't go back and take a look at the Bastion chests, and Pigstep is only found in there. It's a really cool disc. They didn't go back and make that into fragments. In fact, they've had a lot of the same developers on the team since Pigstep was added, or Otherside was added in literally the last update, and so that means there probably is something special about this disc. There is something special about the way you get it and the design, and that tells us at least something. Speaking of things that tell us something, Adam B says, did they kill the Birch Forest concept? You might recall at Minecon Live when they announced the Wild update, they showed off the swamp stuff, sure, they showed off the deep dark, sure, but they also showed off this Birch Forest concept art, and yes, so far in the update we haven't seen anything about it, which is concerning, because even the mangrove wood, which was confirmed to be delayed quite some while, they wanted to spend a lot of time on the textures, we have now seen all of the mangrove wood stuff. It's been a month and a half in fact, and as we get to the end of this update, which is going to be happening pretty darn soon, the fact that we haven't seen anything about the Birch Forest is a worrying sign. Is it definitely killed? No. Is it now not definitely likely? I would say so. In fact, I did a Twitter poll, and as you can see, a lot of people are now getting more pessimistic about the idea of seeing it. I think it'd be a cool last minute addition, but will they do so is something we've yet to see. Speaking of things we've yet to see, Jacob Muinch wants to go back to the portal question because maybe it's another raid-like event. You activate the portal, then an army marches out, and if you win, you get the loot and maybe something else. Yeah, this is how I interpret the footsteps in the Music Disc 5. Like, you light a portal and then suddenly there's a ton, like almost an army marching. It would be really cool to see another raid-style event in Minecraft, but one that you activate yourself and maybe that has some really cool end reward. I mean, like King B Dog said, the reason for coming to the Ancient City is going to be really worthwhile, and right now we have some worthwhile stuff, things that, it's not useless to go down there, but we don't have the big coup de grace, and that makes me think that eventually, maybe the next update, we see some raid-like event, we see some event where lots of things come out and you have to kill them, and maybe the warden is even on your side, or maybe it's so strong that it kills the warden just to, give you a sense of perspective about it. It's hard to be sure. I just know there's lots of ideas and lots of things that 5 music disc could have meant, and they're all pretty darn exciting. Anyway, so with that said, the next question comes in from Daniel Tube HQ, DTHQ. There's 20 seconds of normal music. Maybe that means in update 1.20, the portal opens. In fact, it's not just 20 seconds of normal music inside of the 5 disc, it's actually 20 seconds of music which ends at roughly 1 minute. In other words, at about 1 minute, the 20-second long normal music starts to end, and so 1.20 is when it all makes sense. I think that we're stretching a bit when we say that though. I love the theory crafting as much as anyone else. However, when you start to dive into stuff like this, like the coincidental timing of things, sometimes it is correct, but a lot of the time it's almost like conspiracy level stuff where we're like, you know what, the song is 3 minutes and 22 seconds long, and that means we're gonna see 3 new dimensions and 22 brand new mobs, and it's like, well, I mean, or maybe they just had an artist who made a song that was the appropriate length because he's not a direct Mojang employee, he just is contracted to make songs for the game. And so, yeah, it's very hard to know for sure where something ends and you get into conspiracy land, but I think it is a little neat coincidence, and I also feel as though if we are going to see a dimension update, 1.20 would be the best time, right? That's the soonest possible time we see a dimension update. However, even then, I say, it doesn't seem necessarily perfectly likely. It's going to likely be a 6-month update, and getting a whole new dimension in Minecraft seems like it might take longer. Maybe I'm crazy. Speaking of being crazy, Final Score asks, why did you not put your bow away? You knew you'd be working up high. And yeah, if you haven't seen in the 15th part of my Superflat survival, I may have lost my bow with the Curse of Vanishing on.
That is actually one of my plans. I do. Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god. Oh no, my bow! I didn't think I would die. I didn't think I would die. I was sure I wouldn't, in fact. In fact, how did I even fall? Okay, well, remember that bow that I loved so much? You remember the bow that I really liked? I don't think it exists anymore. I think it's gone forever.
I really should have dropped it while I was falling. I didn't react fast enough. I was very shocked at falling off, and so I lost my mega bow that is so good, and it makes me very sad. So, yeah, why didn't I put it away? Because I'm dumb. Thank you for reminding me. Also, funny question whilst directly off that, but has Toycat died in the series? It's really, I'm really glad. I've been enjoying Superflat Survival so much. In fact, I'm going to be streaming it this weekend if you want to come check it out later today. But I've been really enjoying this series and, like, making work on the big stuff. However, I'm so glad it's not a hardcore series because I've definitely died more times than there's been episodes now. And yeah, the fun thing about Minecraft is the fact that, yeah, things genuinely can and do kill me. And I think that's fun when you actually have a challenge that is, you know, one that you're still trying to overcome. But speaking of things to overcome, Zach Wolf asks, with the toggle in the base game, is there any benefit to using the beta/preview? It's really confusing, the Minecraft beta system, and I get why they have to do it this way because a lot of platforms don't support the preview. However, if you are curious, the reason that you'd still use the beta or the preview instead of using the wild update toggle or whatever update toggle inside the main game is because they update the beta/preview every 2 weeks, whereas they only update the main game every 3 to 4 months, and so there's usually a big lag and delay in features that you can see behind that. Right now, if you play with the wild update toggle, you're getting an older version of the wild update previews, which is, it's very confusing very quickly. I can see how you would be confused if you were a Minecraft player who did follow news like this. And speaking of news, calling it now, 1.20 is going to be the dimension update, even if 1.19 isn't. And I admire the boldness of this prediction, and I think it's cool to make fun predictions and stick with them. However, 1.20 being the dimension update is the dream, right? I would love it if you were correct, Star Snow Leopard. However, 1.19 is the first update that is coming out this year, presumably of 2 updates, because they're trying to get their 2 update a year schedule. And so now that means they have maybe 5 to 6 months to craft this second update from basically scratch. They're going to be doing some pre-production right now, but the heavy lifting is going to start after 1.19 is out and fully available, and maybe even they have a week gap or something to play it and see what players are thinking. And so that means that they have 5, maybe 6 months to actually, you know, get 1.20 from scratch to out there in the players' hands, fully bug tested, etc. Can they get an entire dimension done in that time? Well, I mean, it's entirely possible, right? I mean, you can see modders that add dimensions in a matter of months. However, adding it to the base game of Minecraft and going through all the bug fixing processes and making sure it works perfectly between Java and Bedrock, I think it's a bit of a stretch. I think it's really cool to keep your hopes up and to believe in things like this, but also I have this big part of me that is a realist. I think that it's really important sometimes to have your expectations be a little bit more tempered down. If you expect the biggest and the best all the time, then obviously sometimes those things might happen by chance and it's going to be amazing, but you're also going to be disappointed a lot. I feel as though I'm a cynical person sometimes because I always expect the worst to some extent in lots of places, and the worst never ends up happening, but it's always such a nice surprise when good things happen. Even, you know, like I hate talking to people. Whenever I have like a, you know, an actually nice conversation with a stranger, I'm like, whoa, that was actually a good thing. Whereas if you expect every interaction with someone who's not you, every new thing that you do to go perfectly well, then obviously you're going to be disappointed when that doesn't end up happening a lot of the time. I think your expectations really can shape so much of your reality, and that's why it's important to keep your expectations, I guess, down. But I'd also say that the other part of this people miss, because, you know, keep your expectations tiny, you won't be whiny, is a fun phrase. However, the other side of this is also, it's important to expect the worst, but also to hope for the best. I mean, again, being cynical is like sometimes a useful trait, but you also need to hope that, like, yeah, even though I don't expect everything to go well, I would really like it if they did. I would love if you were right and 1.20 was the dimension update. I would love if we did in fact hit 2 million subscribers this year. You know, we've been at like 1.7 for a while. It'd be great if we got past that. I would love if the Superflat survival goes according to plans and we genuinely get a museum filled with as many unique blocks as possible to basically make from scratch. It's such a fun idea and it's like quite a while away. There's so much work between me and doing that, but it's something I'm working on, and it's important to have your expectations be small, but it's okay to hope big sometimes. I think as though finding the perfect balance there is maybe the important part of, you know, what do people call it? Stoicism or rationalism or whatever you want to call it in your head. It's important to do, and that is why I hope you all enjoyed this video. Like it if you want, but you know what? I'm not going to expect that you like this video, but it'd be nice if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, or you just want to see that number go up very slightly, and I hope that you enjoyed, because I'll see you next time, or in fact later today for a live stream if you want to come see me do that Superflat thing. Thank you, and goodbye.